Hi, I'm Mayor Amy Martin, and I'm here with the Director of Planning, Tricia Givens, to talk all things about Norfolk County planning and development. Hey Tricia, how are you?
Hi, Mayor Martin. Good, thanks.
I'm wondering if you could share some information with the public about who the planning department is and what you do, and maybe start off with the composition of your team.
Sure. We have recently grown, so there's some core groups in our team that are really important to share. We've got the development group, which is led by a supervisor of development planning and 5 planners. We have a new position, which is the project lead for long-range policy planning projects. We have our GIS team, which includes a supervisor and 2 technicians. And then we have our admin supports, which includes planning coordinator, development coordinator, and secretary treasurer.
And everybody has different roles and responsibilities, but on a high level, what are the roles and responsibilities of the planning department?
So we are required to do all things related to land use planning. So the number one piece is the Planning Act. There's a piece of legislation that sort of dictates and lays out the framework for how we work. So that's around development applications and people coming in with their specific applications. And then there's provincial policy conformity, so those broader county-wide projects.
And all of the planners, they're working towards, or they are registered professional planners. Can you comment on the designation of a planner and what that means when we're processing files?
Sure, that's really
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. I would like to welcome all members and guests to the March 5th, 2024 Public Hearing Committee meeting. And I'll take this opportunity to remind everyone that our meetings are web streamed and televised, so if you could just take a moment and ensure that your phones are on silent, that would be great. If you are attending on the line virtually, please mute yourself and keep your camera turned off. Use your team hand raise feature icon to be called upon and unmute yourself, and then remove it after you have finished speaking. And with that, I will call the March 5th, 2024 Public Hearing Committee meeting to order. And roll call, we have all members of council present today with the exception of Councillor Columbus, who has sent his regrets. Councillor Huffman is attending virtually. Are there any declarations of pecuniary interest today? Seeing none, I'm looking for an approval to the agenda or changes to the agenda. Approval? Councillor Michelli moves, seconded by Councillor Duthie. All in favor? That's carried. I now officially open the public meeting held under the Municipal Act, the Planning Act, and County Policy. Please be advised that to preserve your right to appeal to the Ontario Land Tribunal, you're required to make a comment or provide written submission prior to the passing of a bylaw. Today's meeting is to allow the public to provide initial comments on presented planning matters, and we can take your questions back to staff and bring answers back in a future report. The first item on the agenda is item 4.1, Proposed Road Closure and Conveyance of Norfolk County Land Review Project Properties, which is CS 24026, and I will pass it over to Ms. Van Dyke to start.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Through you to members of Council, I would like to introduce Karen Lembrecht. Karen is our Realty Services Specialist, who is the lead in Realty Services for the County Land Review Project, and she will be presenting this report.
Thank you, Heidi. Good afternoon, Mayor Martin and members of committee. Report CS 24-026 is being presented to the Public Hearings Committee for information to allow the public an opportunity to express concerns, comments, objections, or support with regards to the closure and conveyance of portions of road allowances that were reviewed under the County Land Review Project. This report provides the nature of the request by staff along with other related details. Realty staff did not receive any public input other than from the interested adjoining owners with regards to any of the proposed road allowance closures or possible conveyances. A further report will be presented to Council at a later date for the purposes of a decision. Staff are here today to answer any questions Council members or the public may have relating to the requested road closures. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there questions from Planning Committee to staff? Okay, seeing none. Is there anyone in Council chambers who wishes to speak to this first report? Is there anyone on the line that wishes to speak to this report? And then final call for anyone who wishes to speak to the proposed road closure and conveyance. Okay, we have a staff recommendation in front of us, and a future recommendation will come back. The recommendation reads that report CS 24026, proposed closure and conveyance of Norfolk County Land Review Project properties, be received as information, and further that comments received as part of the public hearing committee meeting, in addition to those already received, be considered in a future recommendation staff report. Mover and a seconder, please. Moved by Councillor Vanendriessche, seconded by Councillor Brunton. All in favor? That is carried. Big agenda today. The second and final item is 4.2, ZNPL 2024-031, which is 13 to 15 Ashton Drive, Simcoe, 13 and 15, sorry, Ashton Drive, Simcoe, CD 24027. And over to you, Mr. Sloan.
Thank you and good afternoon. So for our one rezoning on the committee meeting today, we have our planner Andrew Wallace is here, and he's going to provide the overview of the proposal. So I'll turn it over to Andrew.
Thank you, Brandon. Through you, Madam Chair. The application seeks a zoning bylaw amendment in order to add uses to the site which are permitted under the official plan. This is largely a straightforward administrative process which required a limited level of supporting information. There are no physical changes to the site as proposed, and the proposal aligns with the intent and purpose of the zoning bylaws. Before I proceed with the remainder of the presentation, given the level of public interest in this file, I need to reiterate that we zone for uses and not for people. With regards to the details of the program involved in this file, that is outside of land use planning considerations. However, I understand that there is staff here who can speak to that more specifically should you wish to understand the longer term purpose of the ASH program. Thank you, Kate, sorry. 13 to 15 Ashton Drive is a pair of semi-detached two-story dwellings located within Simcoe. As shown in the slide, the site's approximately 566 square meters, set on a corner lot within Ashton Drive. Ashton Drive is just located off of Oakwood Avenue to the south of Victoria Street. It is a predominantly residential neighborhood with St. Joseph's Catholic School located approximately 250 meters to the southwest of the application site, and Lyndale Heights Public School approximately 750 meters to the northwest. Next slide, Casey. The subject lands are within the urban residential designation of the official plan and the R2 zone of the zoning bylaws. Ashton Drive and the adjacent section of Oakwood Ave are characterized by semi-detached dwellings and duplexes, 2 stories in height. The majority of the properties have off-street parking for up to 3 vehicles. Ashton Drive has a large proportion of low-income housing, although some are in private ownership. Next slide, please. The applications, as I mentioned, seeks a zoning bylaw amendment to allow for the use of the site as a boarding house, rooming house, or a group home. This use is not included in the zoning provision for residential type 2. The application would seek an amendment to the current R2 zoning to include a special provision which would allow for the following: use as a boarding or lodging house, rooming house, or a group home, reduction in the required parking provision for such use. The zoning for a group home, rooming house, boarding house would require, in this instance, 12 parking spaces between these 2 units. The application seeks to provide 6. Any setback deficiencies created through the additional uses shall be deemed to comply. Next slide, please. The technical comments have been provided and are contained within your report pack. I would draw your attention to the development engineering comments, which state that no additional water sewage capacity is required for the proposed use. Since the report was sent to clerks, there have been additional public comments which were included in attachment D in your report file. A final response was received by email, and I have provided everyone with a copy of that today. Next slide, please. So considerations of this time can be given to the need for this form of housing or accommodation within Norfolk for a vulnerable population, whether the reduced off-street parking provision would be appropriate in this area, and given the proposed end use of this site, and that the proposal would require no changes to the servicing of this site, but may result in some minor deficiencies in terms of zoning bylaw compliance. And the last slide, please. To conclude, the proposal is for a zoning bylaw amendment to allow additional uses within the existing R2 zone to allow for supported housing in this instance. This proposal would provide reduced parking and setbacks, more so than would be required in zoning bylaws for these additional uses. As mentioned at the beginning of my presentation, I understand that we could call upon Sarah Page, General Manager of Health and Social Services, or Matt Bowen, the CEO of Haldeman Norfolk Housing Corporation, for any questions that are more specific towards the ASH program and the sort of end user population. But those considerations, or those issues are outside of the planning process. So to conclude, staff recommend that staff report CD 2427 for development application be received for information, and that any comments received at this meeting shall be considered in future recommendation staff report. Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Wallace. Just making a quick note here. Okay, so I think we've got a good turnout today to have a good discussion, and I want to make sure we're providing everyone with as much information as we can, and then we can provide any information we can't in a subsequent document. But I want to kind of call on committee here. How would you like to handle this? Because I think we're going to get some questions related to the program that are not related to planning, and we need to separate those very distinctly. However, I think we can also get our staff to share some information today. So one option is we continue with planning and then remind each individual when they come up that we can only discuss planning, or we can give an opportunity to Sarah and maybe Matt to provide some high-level comments. Is there any objection to that? We are in a planning meeting, but Councillor Brunton?
Thank you, Mayor Martin. Just on that note, would the staff, be it our Sarah or our planning staff, have made any comments back already to these letters that are in here? Would they have made any comments back?
I can't.
Could somebody answer that?
Andrew?
Through you, Madam Chair. The only comments that would have been made back largely are, unless it was a telephone conversation, because there was one that was quite significant, we went into a lot of detail, but for the most part, it's more of a acknowledgement of receipt and that it would be added to the agenda pack. So.
Okay, well, I guess based on the nature of the comments, public comments, have you referred any of them to other staff besides planning staff?
Well, so this is the conundrum we're in. We're in a planning meeting,
I realize that.
so we can have staff speak to that. That's what I'm posing to you. to
I
ask.
understand that, but I'm trying to find out ahead of time if the planning staff even refer any of these public
So
comments.
even if they did, they've referred it to one or two individuals and not the public at large, and we should have a bigger conversation, right? Just in case
All
one or
right.
two people got it. Okay, I'm not seeing any objections, so I'm going to pass it over to Sarah to give us a very quick, high-level, brief overview. Maybe Matt can do the same, and then we'll get into planning questions.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So I'm going to introduce the people to my left. So first we have Matt Bowen, who is the CEO of Haldeman Norfolk Housing Corporation. Next we have Jennifer Edwards, who's the Director of Quality, Clinical Practice, Infection Control, and Prevention and Control, and the Interim Director of Holmes House with Norfolk General Hospital. And then to her left we have John Ranger, who is the Interim Executive Director of the Canadian Mental Health Association. The proposal before you today is a partnership between all of our agencies to provide addiction supportive housing post-rehabilitation services. I'm going to let Jennifer come up to the mic and tell you a little bit about the program so that you have a better understanding of what we're looking for in the supportive housing model. Thank you.
Jennifer, if you wouldn't mind, come up to the podium here, please, and that way we can get you on camera, and then the button on the right turns the microphone on. And then we do want to share information with the public, but we also limit the time they get to speak. So if you could just keep it brief, we can get into questions later. Thank you.
Certainly. Thank you very much for having me here today. So our ASH program has been part of our community here for the past 12 years. It is a very successful program where we have a very collaborative approach with our counselors who come in and help support our community members get back on their feet. At this point, the addictions have been managed, and the counselors are looking at rehabilitating people back into society. So making sure that they are able to be in social situations, reducing triggers, working on getting themselves back into employment and sustainability. We have had a lot of success over the past 12 years where we've actually helped people get their GED, go on to becoming valued community members here in Norfolk County. We also have people who go into Haldeman County as well, working with children and counseling others, working in healthcare, working in construction. And this program really helps get people back up on their feet and make sure that we are able to support them in whatever means necessary. We also look at not only the ASH program in this house, but we also provide counseling services in other populations within Norfolk County, and we actually have pockets all over within churches and in our Holmes House facility. So we are already reaching very, very far and helping many people over the last 12 years.
That's great, thank you. And so just to be clear, the programs are not limited to Holmes House. They're scattered throughout Norfolk, Haldeman, and Norfolk, or just Norfolk right now?
Just Norfolk right now. We have our outreach that people come into us, or we also do virtual counseling as well.
Okay, perfect, thank you. And whoever wants to speak next, and just a reminder, if you're tight on seating, all of the seating over here is open.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to introduce John Ranger from the CMHA.
Thank you, Mayor Martin and the Council. Thanks so much for inviting us here. CMHA's role is we act primarily as the funding flow through for this. CMHA has a history of providing significant housing in the community. We have over 90 units in Haldeman and Norfolk County of our individuals that receive supported housing and rent supplements. And it's something that we're very proud of. It's actually the root of our service. We have been, for the last 12 years, a funding flow-through for the ASH program to help support with rent supplement the individuals that are using the program and staying in the rental units. Most people probably have no idea that this program's been running for 12 years, and I'd like to use that as part of our our statement of support. I wouldn't be here supporting it and presenting to council and to the public if CMHA did not believe in this program and did not see the good work that this program does and the incredible changes in people's lives that it provides. There's not a lot of history or negative history with the current tenancy where they've been for 12 years, and we're not anticipating any change to that. Support staff attend daily and regularly to this location in support of it, and the individuals that use it, I want to be clear that from some of the comments that I read, it appears that people are concerned about this being a form of a shelter for addiction individuals and the like. That is not the case. These individuals have to have already gone through some form of treatment to stabilize and show that they're ready for the next stage of their recovery, which is that to stabilize with affordable housing, which is a best practice across any area of the globe. That without affordable housing, you're working behind the 8 ball, so to speak. You're working in a deficit. So the idea here is to have affordable housing for individuals who have already got through the first stage of tackling their addiction and need support, regular support, and comfortable housing to move to the next stage of their lives.
Thank you very much. Matt, are you? Okay, thank you.
Still on. Through you, Madam Mayor. Just want to thank the public for being here today. As mentioned, I'm Matt Bowen. I'm the Chief Executive Officer of the Haldeman Norfolk Housing Corporation. And my colleagues, I think, have done an elegant job speaking about the programs and services that are going to be offered. And I wanted to tell you a little bit about sort of the brick and mortar partnership. And that's really where the Haldeman Norfolk Housing Corporation is leaning into. So these are already currently assets owned by the Housing Corporation. And this opportunity really will enable the program to have long-term viability and sustainable. We're here as a result of, there being a housing change. And for us as a community housing provider, it's about creating a community for everyone, not just some. So we really feel like our board of directors, and our staff feel like this is a really good opportunity to provide sustainability to folks who need supports. And really that's what we're talking about here today, is providing a safe space that's affordable for people post-addiction to receive the supports that they need so that they can integrate fully back into the community in a meaningful way.
Okay, thanks, Matt. With that, let's go back over to committee before we go to the public. Are there questions of planning committee through to staff? Just hold on a sec. It's okay. Just a reminder, everyone, our meetings are web streamed and televised, so if you could please take a moment to ensure your phones are on silent, even if you think it's on silent. Councillor Brunton?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I guess that's where I started there prior to the 3 people speaking. I just wondered is this the first time all these people have heard this?
So there's a public, this is the first public meeting we've had, and the property receives notification of the intended.
I don't understand why these people, or our planning staff, did not say to these people, let's have something where these 3 people could explain what's going on up there.
So
why are we finding it out right now?
It's been in our documentation, it's been in the media, so this is that meeting.
I realize that,
There's
but
no
these
decision
people
being made
probably
today.
would have liked to have known well ahead of this what was going on up there. That's
So-
my take on it.
So we host all of our public meetings this way. There's no decision being made today. Staff have made themselves available. Community resources are here. This is exactly what that meeting is. There's no decision being made today.
I realize that, but
So what is your expectation?
I think based on the letters from the public that were well known, that it would have been nice had this taken place ahead of time, just to keep these people informed of what's happening instead of here.
Do we want a meeting before the meeting?
Yes.
This is the meeting, Councillor
No,
Brunton.
I'm saying
This is how we
before.
treat every planning file.
I think it would have been very proper to let these people know ahead of time from these three people behind us. And all I'm asking is maybe the planning department could have said, listen, we'll get some people in contact with you to talk to you. They've known about this for some time, the planning. They've got all the documents.
Sarah and Brandon, do you want to respond?
Sure, through maybe I'll just start and others may chime in as well, just through the chair. So the development application came in, and I believe, if I recall from the report, it was February 14th is when the notice was posted. So we're only within a few weeks of when the official application was in, and that's when the notice, basically at that same time for today. So that kind of gives the notification to people that we're going to have the public meeting with the information that's for today. Maybe others will chime in, but overall, there is not much in the legislative time frame to have an overly extended upfront. As much as engagement we would love to do, we have a very strict legislative timeline as well to consider the matter.
Okay, so for the public, what that means is that we're mandated to have public meetings and make decisions on planning files in a timely manner. Otherwise, we need to refund permitting fees, and they can be appealed and so on before you, the public, even have a time or an opportunity to listen. So you're nodding your head. So this is the first public meeting that we're having. Over to you, Sarah.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd just like to add, there was a council report in December that came. It was in closed session as it dealt with some realty matters. The other thing is that we did put out a media release last week about this program, detailing more aspects of what the partnership means moving forward. And that was to further educate the public as to why we're taking this step forward.
Councillor Huffman, did I see a hand from you?
Yes, thank you, Mayor Martin. I just wanted to say in response to my colleague, this is exactly the protocol that we follow, and individuals could have reached out to many different people to gather more information. And it is a generous offer that you made at the beginning of this meeting to have the staff of the collateral agency speak to the proposed venue that we're looking at in terms of making a change to the zoning. So I'm comfortable with the way things are going, and I'm looking forward to hearing from the public.
Councillor Duthie.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Are you, I guess this may be directed towards you, supportive of questions of committee being asked to staff and to the member agencies at this time to try and provide some additional context for members of the public?
Sure, I think that's appropriate. We have a special council meeting booked at 4. We can run a little bit over, but I think it also would be helpful to get some of those questions documented in a staff report as well. So let's see where it goes with some questions. So I want to make sure we save time for the members of the public to come up, but yeah, I think we can kind of be a little bit unorthodox here and try to share as much as we can.
Thank you. I appreciate that. It is certainly a planning meeting, so the ability to have this conversation is good. I have a few questions that I'll pose to staff, and perhaps Sarah, if you can direct to the appropriate individual from the respective agency. I'll maybe just list my questions, and then you can sort of field appropriately. Firstly, I'm wondering about how long individuals would typically stay within the ASH program. How long might residents in the neighborhood expect that individuals would be in that house before they transition to their next chapter? What the support typically looks like. I know there are various different supportive mechanisms, whether it's mental health counseling, whether it's employment help, whether it's looking for additional housing. So maybe you can sort of talk us through what that looks like, and perhaps on somewhat of a weekly basis, so that we can get an understanding, or the community can get an understanding of the kind of visits and traffic that they'll see in the neighborhood. I think Mr. Ranger referenced his comment was not a lot of negative history with the ASH program, and I wonder if maybe you can just unpack that a little further for us. I'm also curious about perhaps criteria to qualify for this type of housing. So how, what sort of position would they be in before they move into that housing type? And
before staff answers any of those questions, I'll just give them a minute. just so the public knows as well, happy to dig into the program and what it looks like and share as much information as we can with you. When the time comes for us to make a planning-related decision, we are not able to take program-related concerns and apply it to the planning framework. As an example, if I was to say, I don't want this to be here because I don't want this type of service in the community, that's something that absolutely could end up appealed to the Ontario Land Tribunal, which costs you, the taxpayer, money in planning and legal fees and so on. So I know it's most of the public doesn't really sit in on the day-to-day planning meeting, so I know that a lot of this may be new. I hope that we can explain it and break it down in a way that's digestible, but ultimately we need to apply planning rules to planning files, and some of these questions and answers we're going to get as it relates to the service won't really be applicable to a planning-related decision. So we can share more on that as we go. There will be an opportunity for the public to speak at a podium, just not... Yep, just save it for later for me.
I graciously offered to speak first. You asked for some clarity on my previous statement with regards to there hasn't been a lot of negative. And I think from my perspective, I'm trying to think. I've worked with CMHA for the 12 years that ASH has been in place, and I cannot recall a situation where there's been any type of criminal outcomes, concerns related to some of the issues that have been expressed that I read in the comments that were provided. No such issues have occurred from my recollection. I do not have any recollection of any issues occurring in that 12 years. So that's what I meant, is that typically the individuals that utilize this program are very much focused about their future and about making the next steps in their life and taking advantage of this very good opportunity that's been provided to them. And I want to also say that I understand the concerns. If there was a notice of such a situation happening in my neighborhood where I live, I would be attending this meeting. And I would be inquiring and wanting to find out about it. And I'm glad that you attended, and I'm glad that you're going to be asking questions, and I'm glad that you care about your community, because ultimately that's what we expect of the people using this program.
Thank you. I might need you to repeat the questions back to me in a minute if I miss something. But I will start to go along with what was just being said. We also have very strict criteria. So if there are any rules that are being broken, any concerns, if people are not participating in the program, in the counseling sessions, they are not permitted to stay in the program. So they are discharged from that program. So that also helps keep people accountable for their actions and participating in the counseling programs. Okay, then you asked about what type of counseling comes in. So we do provide counseling for multitude of things, depending on each individual's needs. So it could be financial assistance with how to manage funds. It could be about looking at what's triggering people from a mental health perspective. It could be about how do you look for a job and how do you focus on doing interviews? How do you get back into doing responsible things such as caretaking of the property. So all of those pieces, cutting the grass, looking after what's inside the house, that's also part of our program. So it is a level of accountability within the home as well as to themselves and to the program itself. When we talk about the programming, there are certain programs, and there's many, and I don't think I could get into it right now, but they have to meet every program that they participate in. So some of them are addiction, some of them are different counseling sessions. So if they miss anything, they have to have a very good reason as to why, and if it's not something that is sustainable within the program, that is part of that exit process. Maintaining the cleanliness within the home is something else that's part of the expectations of clients when they're coming in. I think looking at criteria for coming in, so looking at the financial criteria, so it's the same as housing supports, so they need to be meeting that. I think John was saying, making sure that they've gone through the programming. They are clean, they are coming in, they are ready for that next step in their recovery phase. So if they're not meeting those, they would not be brought into the program. We facilitate check-ins frequently with our clients before they even come to the program. So once they come through our detox and our treatment sessions, we are still monitoring them. They are still coming to our meetings. They're still doing counseling, and we check in at least weekly with them to make sure that they're meeting all of our standards as well. Is there any other question?
I think the only other one was around the length of stay within the
Right,
program.
length of stay, thank you. So that also depends on the situation. So we do have up to a year. Sometimes, depending on what is going on, we could extend that up to 2, but it's usually about 1 year time. Okay.
Councillor Bandandrishi.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and through you. Many of the questions have been answered here. The timing is one. How many people, we have got a semi-detached here, how many people will be in the home?
We are still working through that. Okay. The house right now would be set up for 6, but our current program's 8, and we are looking at 6 to 8. Because of this property, we will have the flexibility of having a bit different of a layout. We do have single parents coming with their children into this program as well. So within the house format right now, there is a larger room that would better accommodate a single parent with their child. Okay. So it will fluctuate between 6 to 8.
And the times that it is staffed from what time to what time? Maybe you had mentioned it, but I didn't hear it.
So it's not staffed 24/7. It's counselors coming into the home.
Right.
So depending on the program that's going on and the sessions that are happening, they might be in and out. There's not a set time frame, unfortunately, that I can provide with that. It all depends on the programming. So it could be an hour, it could be a couple hours throughout the day.
Okay. And am I allowed to ask a staff question as well? Thank you. And I'm just looking at the housing that is there now. What is the mix there? Is there private homes and some that are owned by the Housing Authority? What is the mix there in that area?
Through you, Madam Chair. There's a number of the properties in the western half of Ashton, Ashton Drive, that are Haldeman Norfolk Housing Corporation properties. Previously low-income housing. I believe they're currently empty. There's also a number on Oakwood Avenue, sort of on the opposite side from Ashton. I couldn't tell you the exact mix. I would say that certainly in Ashton Drive, I think at least 50% are owned by the Housing Corporation, and then the others, I wouldn't be able to specifically tell you how they're tenured.
We'll let Matt answer that one for you. Go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Through you to the committee. So the Housing Corporation owns a mix of 2, 3, 4, and 5 bedroom units, all within the Oakwood and Ashton street makeup there. So we do have everything from singles under 60 with a child to large 5-bedroom families as well, with the 3-bedroom units as well. So, and with specifically, just to go back quickly to Councillor Vanderishi's question about, around the on-call and support services, the Haldeman Norfolk Housing Corporation, for all of its properties, provides 24/7 emergency services. So as the landlord in this particular situation, there may not be support people there in the evening, but if there is some type of emergency, we do have a 24/7 on-call line that folks would be able to call. We have a manager 24/7, 365 that responds to emergencies as well. So that would help supplement that day-to-day support for any types of emergencies.
Thank you.
Any other questions of Planning Committee through to staff or the agencies? Okay, let's open it up to the general public. So what we can do is offer you an opportunity to come up to the podium, state your name for the public record, and chat with us for a few minutes. roughly about 5 minutes a person. If you have any questions of staff, we can pose them to them. They can take notes and bring that back in a further staff report to you. Or if it's a quick answer, they can dig into it and maybe provide it quickly. But if it's not a quick answer, let's put it in writing for the public so we give everybody an opportunity to speak and try to stay on schedule. So first come, first serve. If you wouldn't mind, you can come up to the podium and the next person can just stand right in behind and get on deck and be ready to go. And a reminder, the button on the right-hand side turns the microphone on, and just state your name for the public record. Thanks.
Hello, everybody. Thanks for having us here. I'm Jacob Tigelaar. I live own a home on Ashton Drive. I also work for Indwell Community Homes. So I'm very much in favor of affordable supportive housing, but I did have a few questions, and I think the councillor asked a number of the questions that I did have, but I'll maybe, are we allowed to talk to you guys afterwards maybe? Answer questions or ask questions privately. But yeah, I think most of the questions that I had were answered. The one question that I want to ask you, Mayor Martin, was do we have to make a comment about the planning in order to be able to appeal, not about the programming? Is this sufficient as a comment?
That's a great question, actually. I think because you're here and you're present today on the record, you're okay, but yes, you're okay because you're here on the record speaking and you've stated your name.
I just wanted to make sure that everybody was aware of that.
Good point, thank you.
I'm looking to be the next mayor, so. Yeah, so I think most of the questions that I had were answered. I mostly just wanted to make a comment so that that it was on the record. Yeah, I think it was mostly around the supports. Those answers were a little bit vague. And just curious about what the support system looks like on a day-to-day basis. I understand it's not staffed 24/7. Staff are available 24/7. But is there supports on site every day? Is it once a week? Is it once a month? That's pretty much, I think, the only question that is left. And then I guess what is the kind of timeline for this in terms of when are you hoping to open up the home to the ASH program?
Through you, Madam Chairman. Thank you for the questions. In terms of the timeline, we're just in the process of putting out a package for contractors to bid on the scope of work that's going to be required to turn these units over. So we're looking, we have an execution date of around mid-August for occupancy. We just received the building permit yesterday, so. And on the supports piece, I'm not sure, it might be more helpful, Madam Chairman, if we maybe lay something out in an official document so that folks can maybe have a bit of an idea of what that timing of supports looks like.
Cool. And I think it would be helpful to have that kind of information put in the mail to the neighbors. I know there was comments made that there was a media release and that was accessible to everybody. I've got 3 kids under 4 years old, so I don't really check the media very often. And I know that can be a barrier for people. So it would be helpful if that could be put in the mail, just to be able to find out a little bit more information. I think that's all I have. Thank you.
Thanks, Jake. Come on up, state your name for the public record, please.
Hi, my name's Kaylee, and I am a recovering alcoholic addict who's been in the program for quite some time. I have worked very closely and watched the people in the ASH building do rehabilitation. I have seen miracles come from this program with the counseling and the help and the support of the Homes House, and I am in 100% full support of them. I live right around the corner from the ASH building, and I do know that they have strict policies. You're not allowed to use or drink, and if you do, you're discharged right away. They do regular urine samples, and I have 2 kids at home as well, and I am 100% not scared or worried about them moving into our property. So I am 100% for it. I don't really have any questions. I just wanted to state that I think it's a wonderful thing that you guys are doing. Thanks.
Thanks for coming. Come on up. State your name for the public record. That podium comes down a bit if you'd like.
All right. Hi, my name's Samantha, and I live on Ashton. I'm kind of nervous. I'm not a good speaker, but most of the questions have been asked that have been addressed in the community or complex of Oakwood and Ashton. But our most scare is how do we continue, especially myself, have little kids? Oakwood and Ashton are full of kids. Sorry, I get a little emotional. How do we protect them, or how are we sure that these people are gonna protect them, like, you know, content with the public, especially in the summer with their kids, running on the playground, the streets of Oakwood and Ashton, and in the yards with everybody else's kids. There's full of kids. Is there any type of, like, how you said that it's not gonna be staffed, operated, but is there any other type of, like, camera securities out in the buildings? Is there any other recommendations of security? Because I myself, I live on Ash 11, so I live right attached to 15 or 13, and like, are these people, are they gonna be like successful? Like I feel like I'm gonna be scared of my kids going outside. Like, what if these people relapse? Like, what if there's police, ambulance? Like, are these things that our kids should be watching all the time if things happen with ambulance and police is coming over? And I had a few questions in the community. Is any of these people that are gonna be placed there is sex offenders, right? So these are concerned questions that we kind of want to address, and hopefully going forward that we don't run into too many issues, because myself, I've been there for like 30 years of my life, and a lot of these other people have been there, and we don't want to move for the fear. Not saying that all these people are criminals, but it could happen. Addiction is an addiction, but there's always relapsing. It doesn't matter how long the program has taken. They get mixed up. They're not around people. They're not 24-hour watched. Hang out with the wrong crowd, the wrong mistake happens. And all I fear is that this community, Oakwood and Ashton, has been a kid-friendly for decades and generations. And that's pretty much what I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Any comments from staff on that?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think the only comment I'll make is, unfortunately, I will tell you that there are people battling addiction across all of our communities, in all of our neighborhoods in Norfolk County, and this is no different. These people that we are going to assist in their recovery have completed their initial rehabilitation and continue moving forward in recovery and becoming parts of our community. There's very little leeway in the rules of the program, and I'm hoping that we just consider that we are trying to have space in all of our communities for all people, regardless of the battles that they're facing on a daily basis.
Sorry, I had one more. Sorry, just again with Councillor Doug. I can vouch for the Oakwood and Ashton part of the mailing. We did not receive any letters whatsoever. So if that could be going forward, I pretty much found out from the Oakwood, the Ashton part off of the Norfolk housing, that they have received letters, and I've got it addressed to me, and I'm the one that pretty much went to like Oakwood and Ashton, and I even sent it to Todd Smith because he was unaware of the one letter that was out in December that we have never got. So we've never got a letter at all. We still never even got this council letter. We still never got nothing. The only way we found out was the yellow sign on the pole thing. So going forward, since we are the community of Ashton and Oakwood, that we do get something in the mail prior and before time instead of like minutes or weeks or days too.
Yep, no, fair point. That should be happening. I see
Thank
staff
you.
are making a note. We'll look into that. Councillor Duthie?
Thanks, Madam Mayor. I wonder actually maybe if planning staff can comment on that, because if I believe from the deputation, Samantha lives on Ashton. Is that what you
Yes.
live on Ashton?
Right next door.
You live right next door. So can we get comment from planning staff on that?
Yeah, thank you. Through you, Madam Chair. Our protocol would be to send letters to all neighbors within 120 meters of the site. So I'm going to have to see why so many don't seem to have received anything.
So I guess the alternative is, if that is the case, we, at our next meeting, when a decision's made, we can still leave it open for public comment to create a second opportunity. But please look into that. Councillor Van Passen?
It's a pretty silly question, but would those notices get mailed to the property owner, which is probably in a lot of those units, the Haldeman Norfolk Housing Corporation, not the tenants? And I think that's what they're asking for. Let's get notice, like, even if we have to load them all in envelopes and walk door to door one time, it won't hurt. It won't take that long, but I think it's probably because they are mailed to the owner of the building, not the tenant, right?
That's a good point. Okay, let's look into that and take that back. But if that is the case, then I think everybody's in agreement. We will create another opportunity, another speaking opportunity if anyone wasn't able to join today. Okay, take it away. Sorry, if everyone can just keep it quiet so that the microphones carry. There's people listening at home too and the sound carries.
Hi, I'm Dennis Blake, and as most of you know, I'm a trustee. However, I'm not representing the board at this meeting, basically because I just found out about this weekend about this issue. I do applaud these agencies for the work they do because it is needed in the community. My big concern is there's a school 200 meters away. I think that's what Andrew stated. And I got to ask the question. You've got over 500 children there. Why would the school not be notified of this? And this is a big question. They're 200 meters away, but it's a school, and I don't care, you know, if this was a factory being put in that spot, that would be a concern to the school. You know, health and safety. Schools should be notified when something zone is being changed within their area, and that is my concern here.
Okay, thanks for coming. We'll take that back unless staff have a high-level comment, but just circulated through. Please. Oh, just sorry, 1 second. I'm going to get an answer here.
Sorry. I would just say that what we're looking at in planning terms has to be separated from the program.
I understand, but there's still circulations. That's what he's getting at.
Yes, but the school is outside the 120 meters that we would circulate.
Okay, so it's 250 and...
So it's 250, the school's 250, the Lynn Valley, or Lindale Heights is...
750, you said, I think?
750, give or take. That's as the crow flies. So they were outside the circulation, and that's the typical circulation we would do for a planning file, not removing any, because it's R2 staying R2. It's just adding an extra use in.
Yeah, okay, so that's a good reminder. So some of these questions and concerns are applicable, and they're valid, but they are applicable to the use that would happen inside that building, or the services that would happen inside that building, not the building. And so the legislation that we follow is a provincial legislation that requires us to do the circulation and so on. It's not an open mic. I'm sorry, I've got lots of people waiting.
We're talking about zoning, and with changing that zoning,
It's not appropriate. I've shut down people for less. Sorry, we need to get through. Staff have heard the comments. We'll put it into some documentation. We'll make a report. We don't have time for questions and answers. Like, the report was circulated? Please turn the mic on.
Sorry, through the chair, and I see that Ms. Givens has her hand there. Just, I think she's just confirming this. Go ahead, Tricia, about the school board circulations.
Thank you, through the chair. So for any application such as this, there are agency circulations. So both school boards would have been circulated as a standard protocol. So the boards are circulated. In terms of the specific school, it's outside of that 120 meters, so they weren't circulated directly. But the school boards would have normally been, they were circulated per standard protocols and focusing in on the land use permissions.
And we didn't receive any comments back, or we did? They're not in the report.
At this time, I would look to Andrew, but I don't believe we received any comments back.
Okay, school board was circulated, not the school. We can put that into the documentation. Sorry about that. Come on up, sir. State your name for the public record.
Thank you. Excuse me. My name is Chris Morrison. I'm a community member, but I am a graduate alumni of the ASH program. I came to Simcoe in 2016 and initially accessed Homes House Detox. I thought I would only be here for about a week and go back at it. I'm here over 7 years later. Today is actually 6 years, 5 months of abstinence recovery for me. And that, thank you. And that's my choice. That's what I've chosen. And total abstinence, no minor mood altering substances. I totally understand the questions that the community, that Ashton Drive and Oakwood have, the concerns. There's the fear of the unknown. It's something new coming in, and I'm very grateful that this public forum is taking place today to have this discussion and that these discussions are being allowed, that this feedback is being allowed. I know this is a planning meeting. So for me, this program saved my life. It allowed me at age 48 to go back to school, Fanshawe College Social Service Worker Diploma Program. I graduated, I'm working full-time, I'm no longer reliant on the ODSP program, and there are people that do relapse. I'm really nervous. There are people that do relapse. That's part of recovery. It's not part of everybody's recovery. I relapsed in my first year, but I was given a chance and people believed in me and I made that choice. If somebody doesn't make the choice to put both feet into recovery, they're not going to get recovery. But this program looks for people that are willing to put both feet in and give those people the chance. By no means am I saying that relapse will not happen. That is a possibility. But it is supervised. It's not 24-hour supervision like has been stated. But counselors do come. Counselors do support. If anything, this model on Ashton will have more accountability because it's communal living. Each person will have their own bedroom, but it will be shared kitchen and living space. The current program, everybody has their own small apartment, studio apartment. So you can isolate, you can hide stuff, be shady. This program, if over on Ashton, would be more accountability, and in many ways that is a plus. So yeah, I understand the fear. I wanted to come here because I did read the article and I wanted to put a face to what this program is. And this program saved my life, and I wouldn't be here speaking today if it didn't. Thank you.
That's amazing. Thank you for coming forward and speaking. I know a couple of you are nervous. It's not normal to come to council. It's definitely not normal to come to council and share your personal story, but it's appreciated, and I think it is a really good conversation that as a community we should be having, regardless of the outcome. Come on up. You're next. You can do it. Just hit that button on the right. State your name for the public record.
I'm Nicole, and I live at 14 Ashton Drive, right across the street. I too am 33 months sober. I did complete the Homes House treatment, 21-day treatment. My question is it still the 21-day treatment?
And while you're getting that answer, can you state your
Yes.
last name as well, Nicole?
Low?
Sorry, through you, Madam Mayor. It is a 21-day in residential.
And then from there, they go straight to Ash, is my question. So I guess what I'm trying to ask is, after the 21-day treatment of becoming sober, do they go right into this housing program to Ash?
No, there is a wait list to be able to go into that. Because it's a year program, there's only 6 to 8 beds. Our treatment program has 6 people who come through their 21 days at a time. So there is a wait list, and like I was saying before, they follow up, check in, and help support through that.
Okay, now how far along in their sobriety are they before they get placed in these, the ASH
Sorry, Nicole, I'm
program?
just going to interrupt you for a minute. So just to keep things on schedule, your questions are great, they're fine. Just formulate your whole thoughts, throw all your questions out there, and we'll see what staff can respond to or put in writing just to keep the ball rolling, if you would. Thank you.
All right.
So your just keep going, and then we will get a response.
Okay, yeah, so I guess that's what I'm asking. And there's a lot of kids in our community I'm very concerned about. My son is also 5 months sober, so that's very young in his sobriety. So I'm a little concerned that that might be a trigger for him. But I think you guys are doing a good job, just not in our community, in that area. It's very residential. So thank you.
Sorry, just to clarify, to preserve your right to appeal, so you are speaking in opposition
Yes.
to the program? Okay, thanks for coming. Does anyone else wish to come up and speak? Oh, sorry, it's just a one-time opportunity. I apologize. So many rules, so many rules. And if there's anyone else that wishes to speak, if you could come on up and get on deck, please state your name for the public record.
My name is Heather McVitie.
Sorry, 1 minute, I can't hear you. Excuse me? Sorry, we can't hear. Go ahead.
My name is Heather McVitie. I reside in that area. I'm concerned about the well-being of the children that attend St. Joe's School. And that's pretty much where I'm at. Thank you.
Thank you for coming. Appreciate it. It's a familiar face. Take it away.
Thank you, Wayne Blasey. I actually live on Potts Road, but I did receive the notice of this meeting. I guess I'm within the 120 meters. My questions are more planning. Ashton Drive is a standard side street, standard road, and no sidewalks. And I walk through that area frequently, and I know it is cluttered with kids, youngsters playing and whatever, having good times. I'm just concerned from a planning point of view, how much increased vehicle traffic there will be, especially during the day, for all the councillors coming in and going out every day and whatever. I just want to make sure that people are aware that there's no sidewalks on either side of the street. It's just a narrow street. There's people parking on both sides, so there's not that much space for additional traffic. And the other question I have is, there are, as already been mentioned, there are several empty buildings there that are owned by the county or not privately owned. I'm just wondering, is this the first of many possible will they be expanding, thoughts of expanding the program into some of the other empty houses on Ashton and Oakwood? That's all. Thank you.
Okay, that's great. Thanks, Wayne.
Hi, my name's Kendra Dearlove, and I'm actually currently part of the ASH program. Without this program, I wouldn't be standing here before you. I probably wouldn't be standing anymore. I'm very thankful to be in this program, and when you get entered into this program, you also enter into a family and a lot of people that hold you accountable. There's lots of children that are in the program. Your children will be safe, I promise you. They'll 100% be safe. I understand that it's stigma. You guys are scared. It's completely understandable. It's new. It's scary. But we currently are in a building that has children. There's lots of people that have come through the program with children, and there will be a lot of accountability. I do not believe there will be any sexual offenders. That will not happen. People are highly vetted to be in this program, and they want it. They want to survive. They want to live. We wouldn't be here if we didn't want to live. And that's all I got, guys.
Thank you for coming and sharing with us. Just a reminder, first and last name.
Good afternoon. My name is Tony Simons. My English is not good, a little bit. I live at 24 Ashton Drive for 31 years. I don't agree with this because I live across. I don't agree with that plan, you guys planning all this. Because if you live there or anybody else, probably not gonna like that plan. And I got a petition here. All the people around me sign. Nobody wants that over there. Because I know a place in Brantford, a police goes there like not every day, because of the, because I know my English not good, I'm trying my best. What are I gonna give this to? This petition?
We can take that for you and circulate it through the clerks. That will become a part of the public agenda.
And I got a copy too.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for coming. Anyone else? While you're thinking about it, I'll open it up for the final time for anyone, or sorry, first time for anyone on the line who wishes to speak to this report.
My name is Rick Purchase. I live at 88 Oakwood Ave. I received an initial letter not from the planning board, but from the people that own the buildings. What scared me was they said that by starting this plan, we're going to begin to diversify the area. What does that mean? They're going to just begin. I understand they actually evicted low rental income people out of these buildings. Why? Also, the women's shelter is not that far away either. That's it.
Thank you for coming.
My name's Ross Willett. I'm new to the area on
If
Oakwood.
you want to put that podium up, it moves up.
There, will I help you? My name's Ross Willett, new to the area on Oakwood. And since we are in a planning stage, is this the only building you have planned for that
Sorry,
area?
you got to speak into the microphone so
I'm
everyone
sorry,
hears
is
you
this
at
the
home.
only building you have planned for this direct area of Oakwood and Ashburn? Or will some of the other housing authority houses be used? And I do know that 2 of those units were sold to the public. And were those people notified? They just bought them? How many are planned for that area? Just the one? Just the one?
Sorry,
I'd like to
that's
know
not
how
a-
many
that-
are planned for that
You're
area.
looking at planning staff and you're not wrong, but he doesn't have the answer to that. So we'll, are those all your questions? I'll get staff to answer it, but is that all you had to
Yes,
ask?
I'd like to know how many are planned.
Sure.
Since the housing authority does own those properties, they've sold 2 privately. They have more that are available, that are empty. Are there plans to continue this plan once the zoning's redone to go into those buildings?
Matt, do you want to
That's
speak
what
to the
these
empty
people
homes?
should know.
Yep.
Through you, Madam Chairman, to your question, the Haldeman Norfolk Housing Corporation, has a principled regeneration document. So throughout, since 2019, we've been looking at ways to diversify the type of housing that exists in the community. So when we talk about the diversification of housing, what we're talking about is mixed use, mixed income. What we're trying to move away from are areas that are 100% RGI, are just social housing. We want to blend those communities with different types of supports. Transitional housing, supportive housing, affordable housing for students, traditional rent geared to income housing, as well as, market and affordable housing. So our strategy has been to utilize some of the units, that have become vacant through attrition that, are at their useful life cycle. Most of the homes in that area are over 50 years old. So there's a large burden, 60 years old, yeah, some of them. So there's a large burden on the taxpayer to have to continue to invest. So what we're looking at doing in homes that require significant resources, looking at alternatives like selling them to the public to create affordable home ownership to new families potentially, but as well look at other types of opportunities like the ASH program where we can support people in their journey in life. Community housing for everyone, not just for some. And that's the overall vision.
I suppose to answer the question more directly, so there are empty units that are have been planned to go on the market to create revenue for us to build housing elsewhere. However, as far as my knowledge goes and council's knowledge, we have not been briefed on any other partnerships with ASH in your community.
What I was asking was, are there more than one planned for that direct area? Because if it's rezoned They're not gonna, are you gonna rezone it for one building to do this with, or are there gonna be more buildings?
No, that's my answer. So there are no plans that I'm aware of, and the rezoning is specific to that building. Anyone else wish to speak? Okay, with that, staff, you've taken lots of notes, both sets of you. So we will prepare a public document, a report that will come back to council requiring a decision on the planning matter, and it will provide answers to what we haven't touched on here today. Okay, so with that, I'm looking for a mover and seconder from staff just to receive this report as information, but I'm going to read it. That staff report CD 24027 for development application ZNPL 2024-031 be received for information, and that any comments received as part of the statutory public meeting be considered in a future recommendation staff report. Is there a mover? Moved by Councillor Duthie, seconded by Councillor Vanden Drieschie. Councillor Brunton? Sure.
What procedure will be followed to make sure these people are notified next time around? They certainly didn't get it this time, and I'm wondering, like, can we guarantee that whatever circulation takes place, that it's done before our next meeting? Can somebody answer that?
Tricia?
Thank you. Through the mayor to the councillor. So just to confirm, circulation was completed in accordance with the Planning Act. I've confirmed with our GIS supervisor, so the notification did go out per the Planning Act. For anybody else who wants to be added to the notification list, I believe there is a sign-in sheet at the entrance there. Please make sure your information is left there, or leave it with the planner, and we'll make sure that you're added to the circulation list.
Okay, so if anyone didn't receive documentation or you want to double check, there will be a sign-in list, so you can leave your, what would you like, Tricia? First name, last name, mailing address?
Yes, please.
Okay, first name, last name, mailing address on that document before you leave today, and then we'll be sure to circle back around for you. With that, I have a motion on the floor. Councillor Michele, debate? Go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a question. Will the petition that the resident, Mr. Simoes, be included in that report?
I think I should be
through the chair.
Through the chair, deferring to Tricia. Yes, sorry.
Yeah. If that's part of the record that was submitted, it will be attached to the staff report. Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, with that, I'll call the question. All in favor? That is carried. Thank you very much. Thank you, everyone, for coming today. I know it's difficult to navigate planning versus the uses, but I also want to thank a couple of community members for coming forward and sharing their really personal story. That wouldn't be easy on a good day, and it's certainly not easy in this venue. So you truly did put a face to a program and to some question marks that I'm sure many, many community members had. So that is much appreciated and pretty brave of you in my books. With that, we have no other items on the agenda, and we had a special council meeting 10 minutes ago. So we're going to switch over. Does someone... Councillor Huffman, I'm looking for adjournment at 4:10 p.m. Seconded by Councillor Michele. All in favor?